Hello, this presentation discusses work I currently have installed at the Hong Kong Centre for Heritage Arts and Textiles. The work is called Omikuji, and my discussion of it today explores modes of North Asian divination and their intersection with practices of games and play. So in this presentation, I use the word ludomancy, with ludic or ludo referring to games and play, and mancy or mantic denoting practices of divination. The installation and the object presented is this. It's called an Omikuji. It's a fortune-telling cabinet of drawers which I built directly based on the Omikuji cabinets found throughout temples and shrines in contemporary Japan. Because the research and construction of this object began in Tokyo in 2017, I have favoured Japanese materials and aesthetics, but emphasise within the object itself and here that many Japanese divination rituals, traditions and games find their origin in Chinese practices of prophecy and play. Indeed, the Japanese Omikuji cabinet is directly based on similar temple furniture known as kaochim found throughout temples in China, where this practice of playful fortune-telling originated. So, using an Omikuji in both China and Japan, and with the work that I have created, the process is the same. You shake a canister to retrieve a long lottery stick. A number on that stick leads to a numbered drawer, which contains your fortune written on a piece of paper. But in my Omikuji, each of the drawers contains a small analogue mini-game that is based on an ancient mode of fortune-telling, such as dice rolling, lot sorting, bone divination, or other North Asian forms of augury. Each of the drawers then leads to 1, 2, or 3 other drawers. So ultimately my Omikuji operates like a kind of game database, with each player navigating through the drawers while learning about ancient and contemporary games of divination. In this way, the work is at once a sculptural object, a fortune-telling device, and an interactive essay. So to give a brief tour of some of the drawers, this one contains drawers within drawers within drawers, alluding to the folded space within the Omikuji, providing a key, which then leads to another drawer, which you then unlock to reveal this origami fortune teller, which through play leads to one of 4 different drawers. And this is what I like about North Asian fortune telling. There is always a fundamental element of choice, of player agency when dealing with one's fate. This is exemplified in the Omikuji or ghost leg form of forking path lottery, which is ancient in its origins, but is more recently found in video games such as Konami's Amida and Nintendo's Mario Land. Now, ludomantic practices first emerge in China's Shang dynasty with oracle bones, which provide important models for time and space that become emblematic of divination practices such as I Ching and Feng Shui, but also form the basis of Chinese written language and dice. For the ancient Chinese, many game boards and divination techniques were interchangeable, each providing detailed maps of the universe, charting the movements of the planets, the days, the seasons. These boards fundamentally influenced the still popular game of Weiqi, or Go as it's known in English and Japanese, as well as the ancient game of Luibo, whose rules are lost to time. Although early forms of Luibo also feature lottery sticks, such as those used in the Omikuji, more recent versions of the game, by which I mean from 500 BC onwards, feature dice, such as this 14-sided dice carved from an animal tooth. Recent tomb excavations from the past 2 decades have unearthed yet more Luibo dice, such as this 18-sided dice cast in gold and bronze and adorned with precious gemstones. In contrast to the opulent dice of royal tombs, the prehistoric practice of talus bone casting endures both in gambling and divination. Known as Shagai in Mongolia, where the practice is thought to originate, the game is still played all along the old Silk Road, traversing the Eurasian continent. Modes of dice divination are also at work in the combination of two-sided Chinese moon blocks used to directly commune with powerful deities and the spirits of ancestors. Meanwhile, coin tossing, which is a kind of dice throwing, provide the combinations used to arrive at I Ching hexagram charts to map the future in binary code. During the Song dynasty, dice became flattened into tiles or plaques known today as dominoes, but dice had already evolved into playing cards with the Tang dynasty innovation of printing technology, during which fortune-telling games become popularised and exported. In their transmission to the West via Italy, card games like Tarotti become recognised for their calendrical qualities and become invested with Western divination symbology in the well-known tarot deck. Meanwhile, Mahjong, a game that only developed in the past 200 years, also operates like an ancient divination board, with attention to the days of the lunar year, seasons, flora and fauna, winds, and the points of the compass. Likewise, within the Japanese Hanafuda deck, each card represents a week in the lunar year, and each depicts seasonal activities of that week, from insects and animals to fruits and flowers in blossom. Even within the standard deck of Western playing cards, the 52 cards correspond to the weeks in a solar year, 4 sets corresponding to the 4 seasons, as well as the values of love, money, work, and war. And the order of power within a Western monarchy can each decipher possible future scenarios. So these histories of ludomancy come to us today in shadows and glimpses, but often become more explicit, such as in the fortune-telling parlour games in the arcades of the early 1900s, but also in early computer games such as Sega Astrodata fortune-telling machine, as well as in board games such as Hasbro's Ouija board and Parker Brothers' palmistry game. So while games and play have long provided ways of peering into unknown futures, far from being exotic, eccentric, or relegated to the past, ludomantic tendencies persist, from game theory forecasts of market scenarios to military simulations used to predict actual battle outcomes. Anyway, if you find yourself in Hong Kong in the coming weeks, do visit the exhibition and please send me any questions that you might have. Thank you.